Good morning. It is now day 42, and I'm up a little bit early, out having my morning coffee. Kathy's still in the room. And today we're heading up to Lolo Pass, which I'm really looking forward to. It's the route we didn't take during our Alaska trip. We took a slightly different route, which was gorgeous. We really enjoyed it heading up from Boise to Missoula, but we had to miss Lolo Pass in order to do that. So today, instead of picking that up as said, one of those bucket list items. Also today we have the chance of maybe doing a little bit of a hike and going off to a hot springs along the way. However, I have to be honest, I am a little leery about Kathy doing this. She seems to be up for it, wants to give it a try. However, I know the last couple of days here, she's had to ice after we get into the hotel here, right? Having a little bit of trouble with some of her ribs that were fractured during the accident, well, almost 2 years ago now. I am hesitant of allowing her to hike back nearly a mile in our gear, because we're going to have to take our gear with us. We have nowhere to store our motorcycle gear while we go on this hike, which is not going to be easy for her. She'll probably make it back there, but it's going to be tough for her to get back out to the bike. So I don't know, we're going to play it by ear, but I'm said right now a little bit hesitant on letting her do it. I usually don't put my foot down in these kind of instances, but I don't know. We're gonna see. We'll stop and we'll take a look, but so I don't know. I'm debating. As I mentioned in the opening of this episode, Kathy and I were really looking forward to riding the Lewis and Clark Highway over Lolo Pass and into Missoula, Montana. However, the day started off with a 25-minute wait before we could clear the construction zone that you see here. While we of course hit various areas of construction along the route, overall I think we were pretty lucky in that we did not hit any major backups. Once we put the dirt section in our rearview mirrors, the road smoothed out, and the ride up to US 12 was beautiful. And by the way, US 12 is also known as the Northwest Passage Scenic Byway, or the Lewis and Clark Highway, as it follows the general route taken by the Lewis and Clark expedition back in 1805 and 1806. And once we reached Route 12, or the Lewis and Clark Highway, we were not disappointed. The road follows the Loxa River as it winds its way along tree-lined banks and through majestic canyons. Our total miles traveled between Grangeville and Missoula was just under 173. And all but the last 10 miles of that was a true biker's paradise, as the road undulated and turned back on itself over and over again. The Lewis and Clark Highway is truly one of the best motorcycle roads in the country. Now, Kathy and I just love this day, and I think it was probably one of Kathy's favorite of the trip. The scenery was beautiful, and I could not help but think of the men and women who traveled these roads long before they were paved. For me, in particular, I was thinking about the young Shoshone girl who accompanied Lewis and Clark on their expedition through the Northwest Territory. Of course, I am speaking of Sacagawea, who was 16 years old and pregnant when her husband, a man named Toussaint Charbonnois, was hired as a guide for the Corps of Discovery. The story of how Sacagawea came to be Charbonnois' wife is a harrowing one in and of itself. The strength of this young girl, well, it must have been amazing. Over the 200 years since Lewis and Clark set out on their adventure, we have romanticized the role that Sacagawea played in the expedition. But what we do know is that her presence, along with that of her sister wife, Otter Woman, gave the Corps a more peaceful appearance to the local Native American tribes and allowed the group to more effectively communicate in a wider range of languages. There is even some dispute over how long Sacagawea lived. The historical account indicates that she died at age 25 in about 1812 of some unknown sickness. However, some oral traditions suggest that she left her husband and married into a Comanche community, living well into her 90s. Given the time in which she lived, the former is more likely to be true. However, it is nice to believe that such a strong and brave woman was able to overcome her adversity, living well into old age. So everywhere we go, we meet somebody who watches the channel. So this is Mark, and he saw us riding up and down Lolo Pass here, or headed to Lolo Pass anyway. And we were pulled over looking for a trailhead. So Mark saw us and pulled over. So thanks, Mark, for coming in and saying hello.
Mark, where are you from?
I'm from Bremerton, Washington.
Wow.
Oh, wow, awesome.
Yeah.
And he rides a beautiful Tenere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I think I ran into you in the first place.
Was there
Look
Tenere?
at the Teneres.
Well, when we were a little further back on the road, we saw you guys all parked on the side, and we saw you point, and we thought you might just know what a victory was or something.
Oh,
but
yeah.
this is fabulous.
Yeah, it's great running
awesome.
into people.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Absolutely.
So what's your
Best part of
wife's
the trip.
name, Mark?
Rhonda.
Rhonda!
Hi, Rhonda.
Now you know why Mark watches these videos.
Okay, I guess we need to finish our story about the hot springs that we started way back in the beginning of this video.
Oh, yes, I guess we do. So, let me say that I really appreciated your concern for me. And I really did want you to be able to make the hike to the hot spring. And of course, I actually really wanted to be able to do it myself and join you. But as you mentioned, I still have lingering effects even 2.5 years later, due to the accident, and just the act of getting on and off the bike with all the gear and such can really be tiring for me. Combine that with the heat.
Yes, it was about 90 degrees that day, and you did offer to stay at the bike so I could walk back to the springs, but there was no way that I was going to leave you by the road for a couple of hours. On top of that, well, we had our little near tumble as we pulled off the road. So we found the bridge, and we found the trailhead to the warm springs. Oh my God, as we were pulling in here, there's a little area, pull-out area on the right, and then there's a parking area up on the left. So we saw the one on the right next to the sign here. As we're pulling in, all right, I'm coming to a stop, and the bike just starts sliding. So there's gravel underneath me. So we're about to go over, and I'm fighting it. I'm determined not to let Kathy fall over. And luckily we didn't. However, it wasn't good for my back to do that. So my back is now a little tweaked. I think it's going to be okay, but it's a tad tweaked. That, and on top of, I just don't really want Kathy walking for 2 miles in this heat. I just don't think it's good for her. She's still recovering from the accident, so we're not going to make it back to the Springs, unfortunately. But we did find it, so that's at least something in our favor.